So in 2010, you released the Life album and you took a really different approach with this album. Can you talk about what inspired the title for the album?
Yeah, so a lot of people were getting tattoos of my lyrics. And the most popular one was the Life with the F in parentheses, because that comes from the nonprofit song The Cure, where I say life is just a lie with an F in it and death is definite. So I wanted to bring that concept, take that name, the spelling of life, apply it to a project, and tie in a whole lot of things, including having Shepard Fairey do the cover art, because my Strange Famous logo, this thing right here, was inspired by his Andre Has a Posse campaign. Are you familiar with the Andre Has a Posse, like the sticker campaign?
Yeah.
Which then turned into Obey. But so he started out in Providence. So those stickers were everywhere, and I was always seeing the same imagery. And that's why I always ended up just keep reusing this image, which was a silhouette of my facial hair. And it was my last album with Epitaph. And I told them, you know what? I mean, you guys gave me carte blanche to do whatever I want on any album. And this is the last time I'll be working with you. I think what might be cool is if I utilize resources that you have that I would not have access to otherwise. So we reached out to all the bands, not only that were on Epitaph Records, but also who were on the same roster as me through Cork Agency, which ended up being Agency Group or Agency, my booking agency. So they had a lot of like metal bands, rock bands, and alternative artists. And so I just started harvesting demos from these people, and I told them, don't send me something you think a hip hop artist would like. Like, don't try to make a beat. Just send me the music that you make, and I'll show you like what I can do over that music. And I contribute the hip hop part of it, and you don't have to worry about that. So don't pander to the hip hop artists. Let me float on top of your music and see if I can make it something unique. So that's what we did there. Unfortunately, we worked like, it didn't come out as great as I wanted it to be. I let go of the reins too much. Brian Deck is the producer of that album. He also does Modest Mouse and a lot of different bands in Chicago. That's where we recorded it. So I spent a month in Chicago recording it at the studio. And instead of using the demos or the artists who played on the demos, he assembled a whole new band who ended up coming up with new arrangements for every song. And that is not what I expected. I just kind of went with the flow, and it wasn't like I was more into the demos than I was the album versions. But and it also was the most expensive project I will ever do, and I ever did. That cost over $100,000 to make.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So to pay the producer for his involvement, to pay the studio musicians for a month, to rent the studio for a month, everything that went into it, the mastering, everything was at least $100,000. What I didn't know, because I kind of was like, all right, well, we're going for it. We're doing something we never did before. Maybe we'll come to like a wonderful conclusion that we couldn't have reached otherwise. But I didn't know that money ate into my previous albums. So I would not see profits from my previous sales until that $100,000 was recouped. I done goofed. If I had to do it all over again, I would not do it like that. In fact, the most popular song on the album, The Best of Times, is the one song that was not recreated in the studio. It was the original music sent to me by Jan Tiersen. He's a composer. And it was, he sent it the day before the last recording session. So they didn't have time to rearrange it. They didn't have time for the instrumentalist to replay music. I just went off of that demo, and that's what we used for the final version. And it came out to be like the best possible thing that could happen for that album, because I don't know if that album would survive on any level without that piece to really tie everything together and give kind of, I don't know, usher in a new kind of era of hip hop where you can talk over music that doesn't have drums on it. And then it can culminate and then crescendo. And it's just such a beautiful piece. And I'm really lucky I was able to write what I did the night before so I could record it the next day. Because up
It's
until
definitely
that point,
one of my favorites of yours. That song, like, it was the best way to close out the album too. You know what I mean? It's definitely one of, like, I felt like it was like a window into your childhood, you know?
yeah, and it was all things I never would have expected to say on record or write about. And like, who the hell's going to care about this? And who's going to relate to this? And then oddly, it's like, everyone's like, you're writing about my life, man. I was like, are you serious? Like, these very specific, awkward moments of my life resonate so hard with so many other people.
Because I feel like you're talking about like very difficult times in your childhood, yet there's this like vibe of this innocence still about the, you know, the song that you're taught, the experiences and everything. It's pretty, I guess, in line with what childhood is. It's like, you know, you think that you know everything, you're going through the worst things, but you're really not though. Like you don't know anything about life yet. You know, you
Yeah.
just know what you know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. To you, everything that's bad that happens is the worst thing that's ever happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know, on the song you rap, the walls of my house were paper thin, every squabble seemed to be deafening. And it's just like the way that you phrase the stuff. I don't know, man. Like I definitely see why so many people relate to it. But you know, in the past, you've talked about you kept listening to the beat and nothing was popping in your head. And as a last like effort, you referenced an old letter that you wrote your girlfriend, right?
Yeah. And it was a letter I was writing to my girlfriend. So the first line came from the first line of that letter, and then everything else just naturally flowed and fell out after that. Just tumbled out as is. Like, crazily enough, there's some of my favorite lines that are in that song. I tend to obsess over writing sometimes. So when it just falls out of me, that can be frustrating, because I'm like, why do I put so much, like, I'll spend 5 years on a verse and like I will never release it until it's the way I know it has to be. But then there's these songs where you write it in one go and it all comes together and you capture it out of the air, straight out of the air. It was like that with Sea Lion. It was like that with Make 'Em Purr. It was like that with Crack Pipes. But it was not like that with Slow Down Gandhi. It was not like that with Makeshift Patriot. So it's just like two different approaches.
Interesting process.
Yeah.
Sure. But for that album though, you know, you wanted to basically tackle the lies that we live and who's telling them, who's benefiting from certain ones, how other ones hurt us, which ones we choose to confront, which ones we turn a blind eye to. And you really talk about organized religion because you felt like it was one of the greatest peddlers of lies, fear, and prostitution of the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, and that happens to be my grandmother's favorite album of mine. So she lets me know that. But she's put me onto a lot of great stuff. I was inspired. I think I needed something like that to be the, what would make the album cohesive in my mind. So a lot of the songs do revolve around that subject matter. And yeah, I mean, there's some real deep stuff on that song that has not been explained, that I would like, if I ever wrote a book, I would go into further detail. But a song like Diamonds and Pearls, now that is that's a song I had to be tricky with because that was about my sister, who, uh, like, I don't know if I talked about her with you yet, but like I didn't even meet her until I was a senior in high school, and then I tried to like really forge a good relationship with her, and she, you know, she didn't live in the best circumstance. She was still around our father. Her mom, along with my dad, being batshit crazy and weirdly religious, and she got kind of like thrust into that, and then was, I can remember one day she was like, so you're not saved? You're not saved? I'm like, no, I'm not saved. I don't really believe in that. But at the same time, they're doing the most awful shit. You know, like these religious people that I had in my life were doing awful shit.
Contradictory.
And yes. And I just wanted to call it out. Now, it may have come across as like, at the time, it's like super, like this, the new atheism kind of was a thing. And maybe it was like too edgelord atheist stuff, but I wanted to explore it, and I don't regret any of that, but I pepper it throughout the album, and it's all based in things that I had experienced on a personal level, but I try to make it a more broadly understandable concept or story.
I notice you do that a lot. Like you draw from personal experiences, but you're not always necessarily writing from like, this is, I went through this, and this is like, it's like you kind of like make little like references, like little vague like things, you know, like to like someone has to really analyze it and piece it together.
Yeah, well, I think that increases the chances of people being able to insert themselves instead of them just thinking it's about me. That allows them to put themselves in the story, or in, you know, what I'm talking about. And I'm not talking about Tiffany and Bethany. You know, like I'm not saying names that may not resonate with you. You know, it's like, I don't want to be too specific about my own personal experience, but I draw from that experience and explore that human condition so that others have access to it without feeling like they're being shut outside, looking in from the outside. They're on the inside if you let them in.
For sure. I think that allows people to really make the decision what that song really means to them.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
It's not always like that, but
right.
I try to do that.